don't want Earl's Baby Vinegar Pie. This comes to us on page 126 of Sugar Butter Flour, the official Waitress Pie Book, under the section Custard and Cream Pies. You know, it's very fitting that Jenna would want to include a recipe for vinegar pie in here, considering that it's classified as a desperation pie, which is a pie that American people bake during times of crisis. Times such as the Great Depression, when vinegar pie became popular. During the Great Depression, a lot of the ingredients that would be used to make pie fillings, such as fresh fruit and chocolate, suddenly became scarce and extremely expensive. So bakers had to create pies using whatever they had on them, including vinegar. Bakers during the Depression had to get creative, using all kinds of different gastronomy and science to use different ingredients together to simulate different pie flavors. Vinegar pie, for instance, is supposed to simulate the flavor of a lemon custard pie. Vinegar pie is actually a dessert staple in the more impoverished areas of the American South to this day, which makes sense, since they're probably still reeling from the effects of the Great Depression. So we're going to see if bakers from the Depression were onto something, and if Jenna was onto something by including this recipe in Sugar Butter Flour. But first, pastry! This recipe requires a single pie crust, which starts with 1 1/4 cup of flour, a tablespoon of sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Whisk it up. Cut an entire 8 tablespoon stick of butter into small cubes, chill it, and then work it into the dry ingredients. I'm using 2 butter knives to work in the butter, though you could also use something like a pastry blender. You're going to work this butter into the dry mixture until it resembles coarse sand, and until about 1/3 of the butter pieces are about the size of peas. And now we're going to sprinkle over the mixture 3 tablespoons of ice water. We're going to fold everything together with a fork until we form a shaggy dough. If it's still too dry, just add in more water, just a teaspoon at a time. We don't want this to form a complete dough like we're making bread. We still want it to be just a bit dry. You're going to use your fingertips to form everything into a solid ball. Do not use your palms, otherwise they're going to melt the butter. To make everything easier to clump, you can separate them into smaller balls before putting them into one big one. Get a long piece of plastic wrap, turn out the mixture onto it, and now we flatten it into a disc that's about 3/4 of an inch thick. Pack it in tight. Cooperate! And now we let this continue to hydrate in the fridge for at least 3 hours up to 3 days. Welcome to the world, pastry. It's awful. This feels familiar. You're gonna roll it out until it's about 12 inches in diameter. Are you 9 inches yet? Said every 15-year-old boy ever. Make sure you keep turning it so it doesn't stick. No sticking! Variety is the spice of life, after all. Now you want to put the pastry inside of your pie pan gently. You don't want to force it in. And now we crimp. Now we chill it for an hour. Blind bake the pie shell at 350 for 15 minutes, weighted. Make sure you bake it in the upper rack, and then bake it unweighted for about 15 to 20 more minutes. Let it cool on a wire rack. And now we are going to boil water in 2 different saucepans. In the larger saucepan, you're going to boil 1 3/4 cup of water. This is what we are going to be putting into our pie filling. And the smaller saucepan, you could just fill 1 inch of the way up. We're going to use this for a double boiler. Fire! Now we get to make a custard, which starts with the yolks of 3 eggies. Beat them gently. Now we whisk in a cup of sugar, a cup of cornstarch, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix it up. Whisk the ingredients on the bowl of the double boiler. And now you're going to slowly drizzle in the boiling water from the larger saucepan. Now, you want to do this slowly because we're trying to temper the eggs. If you do it too fast, the eggs are going to cook way too quickly and they're going to scramble. We want this to be a unified mixture. It's getting more and more liquid, but it's frighteningly thick. What in the what? How? It's a custard. Vigorous whisking. Ooh, this is getting voluptuous. And now we whisk in 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. Ooh, the stuff's pungent. You're gonna whisk this continuously for 12 minutes until it's thick and smooth. How? You cheated! Remove from heat and whisk in 1/4 teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. Mix. Pour the filling into the pastry. Make sure it's still warm. Smooth it out. Place a piece of buttered parchment paper directly on top of the filling. This is just to prevent the skin from forming. Let it cool to room temperature. And now we chill this in the fridge for an hour until everything is set. Sprinkle on 2 tablespoons of raw cane sugar, and there you have it. I don't want Earl's baby vinegar pie. I am very nervous about this. Whoa, this is uncomfortably appetizing. The apple cider vinegar makes it tangy. Balsamic gives it the spice. The custard is surprisingly smooth. Even the pastry is well done. And topping it with raw cane sugar was definitely the smart choice here. This tastes legitimately brilliant. But you do need to be incredibly brave to try this. Much the same way that Jenna was brave enough to conquer her rocky marriage with Earl, as was documented in Sugar Butter Flour, the official Waitress Pie Book, available where all books are sold, and I will leave a link to the Amazon page in the description below so you can get one for yourself. Thank you so much for watching Waitress Wednesday, and I will see you in the next one.